First of all, so impressed and inspired by the way that neighbors and families are coming together to help one another out. Jeremy, who lives in this house right behind us on the corner, warning everybody about the flood that was going to come. He was listening to the reports on TV, he was doing the math, understood that by Thursday, this neighborhood, town, and country was going to flood. But he's also demanding that the Army Corps of Engineers do a better job of warning residents. Shouldn't be a few hours notice. We could have known days in advance. And then going forward, I think the infrastructure for the levees, for the retention and detention of water so that you don't have it spilling out in neighborhoods, that needs to be an infrastructure priority for this country.
And I was going to talk to me about the federal response. If you're elected president, how would you respond to like a national disaster like this? Because the current administration, it varies. Sometimes the governor calls and then they say we're going to give you aid the next day, and then sometimes it's like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it should not take months for people to be able to get the resources they need to rebuild their homes. It shouldn't take weeks for people to be able to get temporary housing. Folks right now are staying with families or at their own expense, renting hotel rooms. I want to make sure that people are in a safe place as soon as possible after they've lost, in some cases, all of their valuables. Chester, in the home right behind us, Air Force veteran, lost all of his medals and commendations from his military career. I want to make sure he's not worried about a place to stay. So much quicker FEMA response going forward, greater responsiveness and accountability from the Army Corps of Engineers, and then working with great local elected officials like Commissioner Keith here in Tulsa County to make sure they get the resources that they need when they need it.
Why was it so important for you to come down here and see this devastation firsthand?
We have been watching Oklahoma on the news, reading about it. Wanted to come here as soon as I could to be with the folks who've been impacted, who've lost their homes in some cases, lost everything inside of their homes in almost every case for affected neighborhoods, and really understand what the federal government could do better going forward. Faster FEMA response times, greater accountability from the Army Corps of Engineers, and then investing in infrastructure so that communities, neighborhoods, people don't experience things like this going forward.
You kind of hit on this at first, but just how impressed are you by Oklahomans helping Oklahomans and neighbors helping each other through this tough time when they might have even lost their home or their metals or anything?
Every family we have visited so far has taken time to tell us that neighbors came to warn them. Family members dropped what they were doing, left work to come help them get out of their homes safely, get their belongings, evacuate whatever they could so that they could save it from these floodwaters. This neighborhood is really a community here in Town and Country in Tulsa County, and they're looking out for one another. And what's really interesting to me is they're looking out for one another going forward. They know that we're looking forward to 7 days of rain this week. I want to make sure that everyone is okay. So really impressed by the level of community and the dedication that Oklahomans have for one another.
So Oklahoma is a pretty small state, but it is in play. So how does it fit into your campaign strategy?
Make sure this truck can get by. I come from a state, Texas, that was written off for so long, thought to be so red that it didn't count. So no one showed up, and no one ever listened to us in El Paso, my hometown, about what was most important to us, what we could offer to this great country. I want to make sure that no matter where you live, we come to listen to you, learn from you, incorporate your stories into the campaign that we're running and the service that I want to provide as President of the United States. And there's no shortcutting that. There's no easy way around showing up and being here. And that's what brought us to Tulsa today. And that's why I'm so grateful for those who've taken the time out of their day to share with us what they've just lived through.
And your campaign is doing really well fundraising-wise here. I think it's you and Bernie are in the top two. What do you think your message, how it resonates with so many people here? Because before we started, I saw folks wanted to take a picture with you, and even while they're trying to clean up, like you bring sort of a star power to this area.
This campaign is all about people. We don't take a dime from any corporation or political action committee or special interest or lobbyist, just our fellow Americans. And I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, small town, big city, we're Americans first before we're anything else. So I think a campaign that seeks to bring this deeply divided country together is resonating right now throughout this country. Very grateful to see that that's the case here in Oklahoma as well.
If you're elected, we've talked to a lot of people this weekend about how they don't think FEMA's really going to help them. They've heard that they're only going to get $35,000 to kind of rebuild their lives. What would you do if you're elected?
We're hearing that the storms that we're seeing in Oklahoma, the flooding in communities like this one, broke the record set in 1986. We know there's going to be more of this, more severe, more devastating. We need to invest in communities now. My plan calls for investment in pre-disaster mitigation grants so that local communities can put those dollars to use now and not wait for FEMA or the red tape and the bureaucracy of the federal government. Let's invest before the next storm.
And you kind of touched on what I was going to ask next. We know severe weather is exacerbated by climate change. And if you're elected president, how would you tackle that? And I know you just mentioned, but talk to me, incorporating climate change.
When we look at the facts, at the trends of these storms and these disasters, we know that as the planet continues to warm, what we see right now will pale in comparison to the floods, the fires, the droughts that we'll see down the road. So we need to free ourselves from a dependence on fossil fuel, fully embrace renewable energy, the jobs that come along with that, put farmers and rural communities in the driver's seat, pay them for the environmental service of capturing carbon through the cover crops that they plant, for conserving more land. If we do that, then we're going to be able to secure this community, this planet for the generations that follow us. This is not something that can be done by half steps or half measures or half the country. It calls upon all of us to come together and do this for one another. And I want to lead that effort as president.
And if you aren't elected president, you have a great message. And how do you plan to continue this message without holding office?
Listen, I just want to do everything that I can for this country at this defining moment of truth. If I'm the nominee, if I'm fortunate enough to serve as president, I'll do it in elected office. If I'm not, I'm going to do everything I can in my capacity as a private citizen to support our nominee and to make sure that a very polarized country comes together and we disregard the differences that could otherwise divide us and make sure that we fulfill our promise on every challenge before us, whether it's paying school teachers a living wage, making sure all of us have health care so that we're well enough to live to our full potential, or making sure that this economy truly works for every single American. It's going to take all of us working together, and I want to make sure that we are part of that healing process. And again, I see that on the ground here in Oklahoma today. This natural disaster is not preventing this community from coming together. Let's take this as our inspiration and example for the country at large.
We have time for one more, Beto?
Yeah.
Anybody has it?
Any other questions? Gracias. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
1 second, Sam.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
About 2 minutes in, I was like, what did I get? I'll be like holding it like this.